Hello and welcome. This activity is going to show you how to get everything you need to do activity 7-2 out of JASP. So this is your CSV file. In the activity, it talks about how you would enter the data yourself. I'm not going to have you do that. You can get the data just like you normally do by following a link. But some of you might actually want to analyze data for your own class, for some other classes that you might be doing. And so I just wanted to show you how you would set up your data file. Again, for an independent T, you're going to have one column that indicates what group people are in, and the other column is going to indicate, in this case, their estimate for how long the Nile is, based on whether they're in group 1, which they were given a low anchor, versus group 2, a high anchor, kind of the way they were asked the question. Low anchor was asked a question in a way that would probably encourage them to give a lower estimate, and the high anchor group was asked the question in a different way that would probably increase their estimates. At least that's what the scientific hypothesis would predict. So anyway, you would just open up Excel and you just create these columns like this. And then, of course, you'd read it into JASP like you always do, if you want to do it by hand. Or you don't have to do that this way. Again, I've created it for you, so you don't have to spend time doing that. So here it is. Like before, it's probably a good idea to get better variable labels than 1 and 2. In this data file, 1 represents a low anchor and 2 represents a high anchor. So we'll click up here in this cell, and we'll replace 1 with low anchor. Now we can just go with low, and 2 with high. And we can get that to go away. And then we are ready to run our t-test. So we're running an independent samples t. Again, the group, whether they are in the high or low anchor group, goes down as your grouping variable. Their estimate of the length of the Nile goes there. And then you want to click on all of the things that we always click on. Okay. And then if we want a two-tailed test, we go with this one. If we want a one-tailed on this side, one-tailed on this side, depends on what we're doing. But we're doing a two-tailed test. And then, of course, as I indicated with the last video, if you watched it, we want to do an equality of variances test called a Levene's test. So if we click on this, it's going to tell us the probability that these two standard deviations are different just due to sampling error. Just look at them. They're pretty dramatically different, and that's why this p-value for the Levene's test is so small. That's telling you that these two standard deviations are very different, and so when you have a situation like this, you should use not the t-test, not the independent samples t-test, what's called the student t-test, which is what we did, the student t-test. When you have a Levene's p-value that's really, really small, really compelling, that's saying that these two sample standard deviations are very different, you probably want the Welch t-test here. So again, you'll see that the actual t-test statistic is the same. What's going to be different is the p-value and the degrees of freedom. So the p-value, you can see it's about double the size. It's still really small, but it's still about double the size when you use the Welch test. Now, in some situations, it will make a more dramatic difference. Both of these are so small that it doesn't really matter which one you use. But again, because the Levene's test came out this way with such a small p-value here, you should probably use the Welch test here. So that means your degrees of freedom is going to be a little funky. It's a decimal, but that's fine. You just write that number down rather than that one. It's fine. All the numbers are here that you need that we've talked about before. there's your graph. Look how dramatically the variability is. See, you can see it in the graph. All right, so that is everything you should need to finish activity 7.2. Good luck.